All right, guys. Well, welcome. We'll get started here. We're actually several minutes late, so appreciate the patience. Um, I was actually not feeling well yesterday, so Mr. Tarbox is actually going to end up leading most of the call tonight because it's he put together a slide deck for tonight, but figure we just kind of talk about a few things, just general housekeeping for the event. Um, obviously 38 days out. The and these next 38 days are going to go very, very quickly. I think, first and foremost, the things that need to happen over the next several days are I'm going to be sending out a checklist to everybody who's participating to get, or it's a Google Forms document basically where you fill out what equipment you're planning on bringing with you. The other thing that we really need to know is who is planning on running the appliance. We know that not all sites are going to run it, but we'd like to know which sites are going to, so that we have an idea of how many people we're going to need to work closely with. There are, and I see Carl Hamilton is on tonight, which will help me get an answer to a burning question here, which is just to review the list of, let me open up the real list so it's a little easier to look at instead of trying to browse that tiny little window here. So, Sam's Point, are you tentative still, or are you coming?
Hey, yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
You probably can't see me. I don't know what's going on with
That's
that.
okay.
Anyway,
Hearing's
um,
more important.
yeah, so I mean, I'd only put that because to talk with Steve. I think he went to that one last year. I have no problem doing that this year. It was tentative just because my travel schedule is kind of goofy, but I I've been trying to block this one off, so I'm still good to do it. So if somebody else wants to and really wants to do it, then that's fine. But I'm 100%. I have a new car now. I don't know if this affects things because I'm normally used to using my Rav4, which already had antennas and stuff installed. But I got an electric car now, which I'm learning now that if you leave it on, I should be able to just run for a long time on it. So, but I'm gonna have to have like an external antenna and run it off my car. But um, I have a D710. I need to talk to you with somebody about the appliance thing. I might be able to run the appliance through I have the what's that thing called, the DIN adapter thing. I haven't really messed with it much. If we want to run the appliance, I could possibly do it, but I'm gonna need to like prep that. The Kenwood D710 though, I have the 710G, and I'm gonna have to do a little bit of testing just to make sure it's gonna power off the vehicle, and then I'm gonna probably have to get an external antenna. But other than that, I'm if it's just me, I'm gonna spend a lot more effort. Last year, I was kind of called in at the last minute, and the guy that showed up, he might be on here. He had like a way better setup than I did. He had like this whole like mast he put that connected to his vehicle and went up like 30
Oh
feet
yeah,
or
I was
something. I don't
looking
know.
at the pictures. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. In
his
fact,
was way better setup than mine, so I can't do that. Like I'm not gonna be able to do a setup like his, but I can probably get a speaker mount in a stand, and I can probably put an antenna up. It probably won't be as good as his. His was pretty awesome.
yeah, I think I
um
actually grabbed a picture of the setup that you guys had for a presentation I did a couple of weeks ago. This was you guys,
oh,
right?
okay. Let me see. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, see, he
Okay.
had that anchored to his wheel. Like I don't have a mast like that. I mean,
That's okay.
I don't know if that's a necessity. Right? His is awesome. Like I was just like, holy crap! Like it was really cool. But
You have
um,
antenna envy? Is that what's going on?
I mean, it's mast envy and not the antenna. Like I just don't have. I haven't really thought through how that works. But he connected to the wheel of his car and was like able to erect this thing like pretty high up, which is pretty cool. I don't know if it was necessary or not. but obviously, if you have the ability to do it, you would do it.
I think the most important thing is specifically for Sam's point would be to connect with Steve Bossart and just if you've never been there before, try and get an idea of what it is that he uses. So I exchanged emails with him yesterday or the day before. So I guess he has like a 2 meter bandpass filter that he wanted to let you borrow. I don't know if it's necessary or not, but I think the most important thing to find out from him is just what he used for an antenna. And
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think I don't know if the antenna is as important as that bandpass filter. He told me I saw him at a Hamfest a couple of weeks ago, and he was just like, "Oh, I forgot to bring it. I didn't know you were going to be here, but you need this bandpass filter because apparently there's some interference on site that's pretty bad." So
okay,
I can link up with them. He's not too far from me
okay.
before the event, so that shouldn't be a problem. But I didn't know if there's nobody else that's signing up right now, and if he's the one that's done it in the past, then I'll link up with them and I'll figure it out. The good
Yeah,
thing
so
is I
that's the
also have my son, my youngest son is a ham. He's 21. He's doing an internship here and he's staying at home right now. So he will likely be able to help out, which is going to be awesome. Uh, and yeah, I think we're going to be able to make this work. I put tentative back then just because I didn't know my travel schedule. I should be able to do it. I just need to. I do need to know if I'm the only one out there to do. I'm going to do some extra prep work to make sure if something breaks
well,
or.
don't overdo. I like if you like don't necessarily like overdo it, so to speak. So like let's definitely talk more. Just we're going to be talking more and more over the next few weeks.
Yeah,
But I just it makes me feel a lot better to get the word tentative away from being next to your name, and then like the rest of it, we can kind of like we'll work through it. And if you need to ban pass filter and Steve has it, that's great. Steve said there's a slight chance he may be able to come with you, but I mean, if it's you and your son, we'll make sure. I mean, you've got a D710, you've got the most important part.
yeah.
So
Now I've got.
about the
I'll
apply.
probably. I've actually got like six of them at work, so I'm probably going to bring two with me just in case something goes bad. So
Here, guys,
I'm
this is the
I
poster child for the event, redundant 710.
I I believe a lot of redundancy. My wife always says bring a umbrella just so it doesn't rain because you got to reverse Murphy's law things. Um so yeah, no, I'm gonna the only thing I want to do is figure out what my antenna situation is gonna look like because I normally would just do the one on my car, but I'm probably gonna build some kind of thing. But now that it's getting closer, I hate to say I'm going to get more excited about it. I'm super excited about it, but it'll force me to spend a little effort of planning and hopefully the week before I'll be able to set my stuff up and make sure everything's working right.
Excellent. Well, so as far as the appliance is concerned, just for like everyone's edification, so um, the past couple of years, what we've done is we've broken the event up into like 4 phases where we've done the first half of the event, first 2 phases, Kenwood 1200, Kenwood 9600. And then we switched to the appliance 1200, appliance 9600. And if you didn't run the appliance, you would just keep running the Kenwood. This year is going to be a lot different in that there's no 1200 this year. It's 9600 all the way. And we are going to run Kenwoods for until the packet makes it the length of the trail. So we may not even get to the appliance. Just give people like an idea as far as like don't kill yourself over getting the appliance working because this year, I mean, it has literally been, I think, 4 years since the event has been successful. And the more changes that we make, the more opportunity there is for introducing errors into the overall operations aspect of it. The simpler we can keep it, the simpler we can make, the more we can maintain focus on what the end goal is, which is to pass the packet the length of the trail. That's the most important thing this year. The appliance is just kind of like a nice to have.
But you said we're going to start with 9600 then?
Yes, we're not even going to mess with 1200 this year.
Hmm.
Yeah, so we've actually found that 9600 works better.
That is absolutely fascinating. That's
Is that
very cool.
very cool? It blew me away. I had a hard time understanding. There was a time, I think it was like 3 or 4 years ago, where Bob was adamant we're only doing 9600. We were starting out that way. And I mean, with the exception of some other issues that we had that were unrelated, it was great. And last year, I mean, it was like a no-brainer. The behavior we were seeing from 9600, it's like far out exceeded 1200.
That's wow.
Yeah.
That's just like we I don't know if anybody's here doing I'm working academia, so if anybody's here doing writing papers or something, might want to document this. This is super counterintuitive in my head, but that's I mean, part of it is, I guess, you have the length of a packet, and we're all using Kenwood equipment, which I know seems to work much better than Yaesu, but that's no, that's this. If that's a thing, then we need to like capitalize on this and probably write it down.
We even found that Kenwood at 9600 with the appliance at 9600 worked really well too. So it didn't even need to just be Kenwood to Kenwood. Because Direwolf is so good at decode that as long as you followed the recommendations in terms of the audio interface, you're getting the discriminator output that had enough bandwidth to support the 9600 that it worked swimmingly. We've proved a lot of really cool concepts here, right? I mean, it's not even just a concept anymore. We know it works. It's awesome.
I would almost want to understand why, but in my head, the only thing I can think of is it's a shorter packet time, so you have a better chance. But I don't know. It seems to be, I don't know. I'm just having a hard time in my head of thinking of why that would be. But either way, it's awesome.
Have we ever actually completed the whole trail at 9600? I know we've done it at 1200.
We have not at 9600. No.
Okay.
This will be the first. We're going to do it.
Yeah.
This year we're going to do it. Yeah. So
nobody leaves till we're done.
So the issues that we had last year without, we had one person who was late, like very late. And we had another person that was running equipment that didn't support, from an APRS standpoint, didn't support what we needed for the event. So we had two breaks in
didn't we also have weather was a problem, I think, on that?
That's like almost always an issue, like inevitably at the tail end of it. But we would have been successful had it not been for those two things. We would have been successful before 1 o'clock had we not had those two factors.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, cool. we should be able to nail this event like in an hour if the sun, the earth, and the moon are all like in alignment and everybody tests and everybody follows the steps to configure the radios. People are on time, ready to go, not troubleshooting at 11 o'clock, but they're actually opening up their radio. They're ready to go at 11. We should be done by noon in theory. I mean, there's really no reason not to. Packets don't take that long to get transmitted, but inevitably, we're always kind of fiddling around because we find that if you don't spend the time doing the prep work ahead of the event, then you're going to struggle with it when you get out there. And we want to do as much as possible to ensure that people are testing beforehand. I cannot even begin to emphasize how important the testing ahead of the event is. If you're going to find out, the time to find out that there's problems is now, when we can do something to help with it, not putting it all on Lynn on July 20th. If you can't test, and if you can't test for some reason, you don't have another radio, something like that, don't be quiet about it. Let us know. We can help you with that too. But don't just say, I didn't have a radio, I couldn't test, sort of thing, so I just went. Let us know now. We can do something, even if it's like one of us letting you borrow a radio for a day. Even like shipping one, that's fine. Let's just get it done. Like all of the kind of the excuses and stuff out of the way so that we can do the dirty work, because we're going to get it this year. We're going to get it this year.
Can I just add something for Colonel Hamilton? This is John Tarbox.
Of course.
You also have a couple of D72s, right?
A couple, maybe 50, yes.
Yeah. Well, I know, Jeff, you tested your 710 with the D72, correct?
Yeah. Yeah,
So
it's
that's,
tested with the 72, 74, 75 now.
yeah, so that's an easy way to test your 710 by using a 72. But you might want to take one or two 72s up as backup, because an interesting test to do would be after we've got it working with the 710s, you could try using your 72 in lieu of the 710 to see if it continues to pass the packet.
Yeah, yeah, sure, absolutely. No, it actually. So first of all, I'm new to this, and I did it last year, and it's been one of these things that I've read about, and I thought it was super cool. I had no idea I'd be involved with it until Steve wrote me in for last year's thing. But I would say that the getting what I wish I would have had last year was, I think you have a Discord. Maybe I got on it now, but I didn't have it at the time, and I felt like I was very confused when I was seeing things happen, and there was no like way for us to communicate. But I guess there's a Discord. I'm gonna
There
get
is.
that figured out this year, because that would have been super helpful. Mainly because one of the things I saw when you're talking about the D72s, someone in the south, I know it was south because it was south of us, I'll know, but had like a handheld, and I would see that one pop through, and I just had questions about what I was seeing, and it wasn't clear to me, but it was super cool, because obviously everything I saw was like hundreds and hundreds of miles away, which is kind of cool. But there was just like a lot going on that I wanted to ask, and the guy that was with, I can't remember his name. I felt bad. He was awesome. But he and I were talking a little bit, and we were stuck in our cars. We were kind of sitting there playing. I was just like fiddling with stuff, and I just had like a lot of questions and things I didn't understand what was going on. But either way, it would be nice, because we were trying to figure out when we were switching times, like just the back channel communication would have been. I don't think he was in the Discord either, so we were just kind of going off of the time that we were given, and I didn't know what other issues were happening other than Steve and I. We had like I think we chatted on like text or something, because I know him, but yeah, I definitely want to get the Discord thing set up, and then
Yeah.
test my stuff out, so I'm ready to go, and then I can at least, I think everybody should come up on Discord and be like when they're ready, when they're working, so then I know, should I be able to hear this person or not, those kinds of things.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I'm actually adding that to the checklist.
Yeah, the trick with everyone coming up on Discord is some of the sites do not have internet access. They don't have cellular service. So not everyone can actually come up on
I
Discord.
think, is he talking about like before the event though, or during the event?
No, he said when they're on site and on the air, let
Oh.
everyone know that they're there. But,
Yeah, so
yeah,
that's a good, well, that's a good point though. I don't, I'm in the Northeast, so I don't even know. Maybe I should talk to Steve if there was plenty of Wi-Fi access where I was at, but I also have a Starlink at work. I'll bring it with me if I need to use that, but I can get internet access like wherever I'm at. But either way, if that, I mean, and that's fine. Like it's kind of, I know it's counterintuitive to say that we're using the internet for this, but this is a special event, and I just want to make it work right. So
yeah.
Yeah.
So the best thing I can offer you is Jeff will make sure that you get my phone number, that everyone that's going anywhere has my phone number, and you can call me before the event, you can call me during the event, you can call me anytime. And as long as it's not specifically detailed questions about setting up esoteric radios, if it's about APRS, I can answer your question most likely.
So yeah,
Yeah.
guys, and just so you don't like, and not everybody's like coming to me for contact information and whatnot. There's like, we're kind of like going at this whole call like all unstructured. It's kind of making me twitch here a little bit. So maybe we can slow down a little. So yeah, so each site. So first of all, there is a goal to have team captains, and we really needed 3. I think we have 2 because one of them backed out. So just kind of like to talk through this. So the most important thing to get out of the way initially was that Stephen, you're going to be at Sam's Point. Bovina, I'm still waiting to hear back from John Rudolph. Typically, he will activate that site at the day before, and then it's an automated site. I think I want Matt Jenny down at Camelback because I don't know Kevin and whether or not Kevin has been part of the event before. I have not seen his name on any of the past rosters that I looked at. Outside of that, we are covered across the board. So we're looking really good, all the way up to Katahdin. So really the only concerns were Sam's Point really was the only one that I was concerned about. Bovina, I'm pretty confident John Rudolph will be able to set it up. We don't usually ever have somebody there during the day, but it's also never been a problem. And as long as we have Sam's Point, Bovina is kind of like bonus. It just gives us a parallel path, I think. But as long as we get packets from Camelback to Sam's Point and Sam's Point to Greylock, Bovina almost really doesn't matter. So team captains, the idea is in the past years, like basically like 100% of checking in on everyone it fell on me. And I was trying to get some folks to assist with that. So, I had asked for people to volunteer. I think there was some severe confusion in that whoever the team captain was, that they needed to be well versed in APRS, that they needed to have a Kenwood radio, that they needed to know how to do anything and everything that people needed to do on the trail. Couldn't be farther from the truth. Whoever the team captains are is merely a facilitator and somebody to help go through a checklist, make sure people are talking to each other, make sure people are testing their equipment, make sure that when people are leaving, that they leave when they say they're going to leave, that they show up on time, that they've if they're building the appliance, that what they're building meets the recommended hardware, what we've tested. So I had put together a letter and sent that, or plan on sending that out soon. There's a checklist here of basically everything that the team captains are going to be responsible for. If we don't end up having team captains, I'm going to make everybody responsible for their own checklist. And then just periodically we'll check in with you to see where you're at on this. They'll be all electronic, so we're not emailing files back and forth. Everything is just going to be done through web-based spreadsheets. So you literally just go in and update your status here. Let me blow this up a little bit so you can get an idea of the sort of things that we're looking for. Because I just added, join Discord. So we'll make sure everybody who's in the event has a link and is joined Discord. Inventory. There's somebody who's got some background noise. Can you please go on mute if you're not talking right now? Thank you very much. We expect folks are going to have some sort of a checklist. If you're going to participate with the appliance, we'll want to know that sooner rather than later. If you're going to build one, when is it built? Does it meet specifications? Is it configured and tested? Are you bringing an iGate? If so, has it been built? Has it been tested? Is your Kenwood configured? Has it been tested? Site plan. Every single location past few years has had a site plan document. And this is what it looks like. It is a single page, not even double-sided, just one page. Each location has its own site plan. So if you look here, I've got them for every site. I will generate new ones for this year because the sites are a little bit different. But has the call, location, coordinates, who the stations are that are going to be, or the operators are going to be at that site, contact information for who's at the adjacent site so that you can get in touch with people, Lynn's contact information, how to use ANServer. We always want a trip report after the event, so I provide a link to where you get the trip report from. This is last year's sheet, so don't go based on this one. This is just an example. What time we want you there, what time we want you on the air by. This year, again, it's going to be a much simpler itinerary in that it's Kenwood 9600 until it's successful. And then when we're successful, we can switch over. People who are running the appliance can switch over to it, but we really want to see the packet go up and down the whole trail. Radio programming, literally two channels, one for the ATGP APRS frequency and the frequency that we use for voice, which this one is wrong actually. Settings, beacon rate, right? The whole idea is to make you guys not have to think about and take as much thought out of this as possible, because there are a lot of moving parts to this, and people get nervous, they get flustered. We want to just try and remove as much ambiguity and confusion out of it as possible. So that's what this is. Even to remind you to take pictures while you're out, right? I mean, just so you don't forget to do anything, and you've got as much information as you may need in your hands before you leave for the event. So everybody should have a copy of their site report printed out. If you laminate it, that's great, whatever, but print it out and in hand before you leave for the event, the day before. Don't know when you're traveling, but have at least one person at each site should have a copy of their site plan for their location. But the whole idea is to take you guys don't have to think about as much. It's all documented here. But the biggest theme this year is testing. Test, and test. The more you can do it, the better. And we want to know what sort of equipment you're bringing, because again, we've had times in the past where people said they were bringing one thing and then they brought something else, or they have multiple Kenwood D710s. They brought a different one out that particular year than the one that they used the previous year, and it had the tin whiskers on it, and so it just didn't work.
Or even just brought a different power cable.
Or a different power cable, right? If you test ahead of time, and then when you're done, you break everything down and you put it into your bag, you know it all worked, then there's no question that when you grab that bag the day of the event, you've got a full working configuration in there. You've got the right power cable, the battery, everything you need. But if you don't test ahead of time, this is a team event, right? There's 16 stations this year. Any one station that fails, the entire event fails. I hate to say it, but that's just the way this works, right? So it's really important that we consider this a team event, and that everybody's working with everybody. It's all in everybody's best interest to be working with each other. What we're doing here is extremely special, and it's something that when we're successful with this, you guys, I swear you're going to be high-fiving each other, because this is amazing. Absolutely incredible what we're doing here. And when we meet, I'd love to have a virtual pizza party when we do the post-mortem in August, because this is amazing what we're doing here, and we're going to do it at 9600, and it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, I'd like to add one thing to that. I've been in the Army 26 years now, and no, this is a significant operation. Like, this is something that even with all the right people doing all the right things can fail. So you definitely want to. My goal is that's why I just am feeling like I feel like I'm already unprepared, because I haven't even tested out what I'm supposed to do yet. I'm feeling like behind here, but I'm going to get caught up. And a week out, I'm planning to have everything that I need packed into my car, and then I'm going to go look at what are the things that can break, and then figure out what the spares are going to be as my brain figures that out the next week or throughout that week. But as a prior signal officer, that's kind of my job. But I would like to say, Jeff, we should, I still don't like the term postmortem. We should call it, at least in the Army terms, we call it an after action review or a hot wash.
We can do that.
So if we call it either hot wash or after action review, those are military terms. I'm throwing those out there, but those are things that we talk about.
I like after action review.
Yeah.
We'll
just a little less depressing.
Yeah, totally. Postmortem. Got it. Last time you'll hear me say that then. And then we're also going to do the help desk sessions again. So we realize that there's a lot of people that can't make this Tuesday night. Plus, this is pretty much, I guess there's technically one more before the event, but we don't usually hold a knowledge share in July, So what we're going to do is we'll do multiple help desk sessions. We'll stagger them across different days of the week, different times, just to increase the likelihood that people are going to be able to attend. We want at least one person from each site to attend at least one of the help desk sessions. If we do, 6 help desk sessions across, we stagger them across different days and different times, we'd hope that at least one person from each site could make one of those 6 meetings. So those will be scheduled here in the next few days, and we'll send out the schedule plenty of time in advance. Ideally, you guys should have testing done before you even come to the first meeting so that we know if you had problems or not. And if you have problems, that's the purpose of the help desk session, is to get you through whatever the issues are that you're having. But I'm very, very excited about this. I'm really happy that we're adding in Lookout Mountain. In fact, I was doing the count the other last night, and I went to set up one of my radios as Katahdin, and I'm like, wait a second, I can't put 1.6 in here for the SSID. And I was curious as to whether or not Kenwood would actually prevent you from using it. And sure enough, it does. So if you put in a 1.6, it won't allow you to save it. So I guess we're going to have to restart the numbering after Sugarloaf. So we'll do 0 through 15 to Sugarloaf, and then Katahdin will be 1 or 0. But yeah, so we're having more stations, so we're basically getting close to the number of stations that we had for when our Canadian friends joined us in the past, and hopefully one of these years we'll get them back. John, Lynn, anyone? Questions, comments?
I thought you covered it really well. The only thing I threw into the chat was maybe after event review, since
Okay.
we're not really going into action necessarily.
I don't know. I'm pretty. Maybe you're not in action, sitting in the shack potato there, but it's very
Well,
action packed for me.
Oh,
Yeah,
it-
car
it-
wash was good.
very good point.
Not wash.
All right. So who likes hot wash? Are we using that? We'll vote.
C.
C. All right.
Sounds radioactive.
It does.
I'm good with all of them. I just didn't like postmortem. Sorry.
Yeah.
That's all right. It's just what I'm accustomed to from the IT world. So there's nothing living in IT except for the people that sit at the machines, and so I think that's why we use it. I don't know why we use it. I'm just making
We
that up.
actually hope we killed all the bugs. That's why it's a post-mortem.
There you go.
Ah.
I'll buy that.
Nice one.
All right. So, any other questions, comments, concerns?
Jeff, this is Dwight.
Yes, sir.
I just want to let the colonel know I sent him a private chat. At his convenience, he can look at it and we can talk at his convenience.
Have you been to Sam's Point in the past, Dwight?
I've been doing it for maybe a decade. I just wasn't there last year.
Oh, okay. That's right. Okay. That's right. Got it.
Yeah, I got it. I got your contact info. I'm gonna try to add you into my phone here.
Thanks. Sure. Thanks.
Lynn, did you give me a cell phone? Because I tried to text you, it didn't work out.
No, I pass out my landline exclusively.
Okay,
On the event
perfect.
contact information, there is an SMS number, but I usually only give out my voice number because it rolls to my cell when necessary.
Perfect. Okay. I just texted you just to make sure it was right, but if that's what it is, and that's why it didn't work. So perfect.
Right.
Thanks.
Sure thing.
Yeah, and I tend to, like, as far as like phone numbers and direct contact information, you'll notice that like on the sign up sheet, we try and not provide people's contact info. Even usually it just asks like for first name and first initial of last name, but we just ended up going kind of full court press this year. But just try and keep the distribution of personal information down to as small of a distribution group as possible.
No, but I appreciate it. I literally have we call it a digital force protection team, but we're literally looking at privacy stuff all the time. So this is and you guys are doing it's awesome. Thanks.
Yeah, we just keep it a surface area as reduced as possible. All right, so I don't know. I think I covered everything that I wanted to cover, so I'm probably gonna just turn it over to John to tell us what PACE is.
Sure. How's you got the slideshow up here? Can I click on it to advance it, or how?
So yeah, if you want to, you can just share from your computer, or there's an option where you can choose to take slide control from me. In
Let
fact,
me
I
take
should.
slide control from you. That'd be easier because you made some changes.
Yeah, let's see here. Can I give you slide control, John Tarbox? There you go. You've got it.
Okay. Well, Colonel Hamilton, you'll appreciate this because this is a military acronym PACE. And
Oh yeah, I know
Sorry.
exactly what that is. Primary, alternate, contingency, and emergency. This is exciting. Thanks.
yes, so you've all heard the phrase two is one and one is none. How do I advance this, Jeff?
Should be able to just click through it, but let me see here. Try it now.
No, it's not doing anything.
All right. Well, I'll click it.
Okay, let's go to number. Okay, so here it is: primary, alternate, contingency, and emergency. So if you think about this, say like you're a sheriff's deputy and you're going out on a call. Well, your primary, you're going to pick up the radio in your car and talk to dispatch. Maybe you get in a valley and the radio doesn't work. How are you going to get dispatch? Well, you pull out your cell phone and use that as your alternate. And on a day-to-day basis, you'd probably be using both of those routinely on primary and alternate. And then you need some kind of contingency. I don't know, you get locked out of your car and your cell phone's in your car, but you still got to get a hold of them. I don't know what your contingency is. You use the radio on your belt, your HT on your belt or something in a contingency. And then finally, you have an emergency. You know, you driving down the highway at 90 miles an hour and you hit a moose and your cruiser's out of commission and you're laying there. Well, you need 911 and you need emergency. Maybe you set off a flare. You attract attention somehow. So that you have 4 levels here, not just primary and alternate. So, and yeah, it's a military thing. You're going to find a lot of references. I'm sure the Army probably has 500 manuals on this, lots of stuff on the web. Here's an actual link to a website where this graphic was taken from, and you can find this on Wikipedia. You want to advance? Jeff, there you go. Okay, so let's say what's primary for Golden Packet. And basically, this is what happened to me on Sugarloaf last year. You arrive on site, and I was driving a van, so my 710 was mounted in the van. The antenna was already hooked up. It was a regular mobile radio. I turn the thing on, and immediately I get packets from my 2 neighboring stations. Great, everything's working great. So I see that. I fire up my other radio on 440. In fact, it was so great I could use my Biofang on 440 to talk to Katahdin. The communications was so good. I got both the adjusted mounts, and so they says, "Hey, I got your packets. Everything's great." The thing we're going to add this year is hopefully you have a team captain or Lynn if there's no team captain, and you want to call them and say, "Hey, I'm on site. I'm getting packets. I have voice communications. Everything's great here." Okay, that's your primary, and hopefully, if everything's great, the primary works. But we we hope for the best and plan for the worst. So let's go to the next slide. Okay, so what happens? You get on site, maybe you're setting up your antenna, you're putting your radio on the air. Ooh, boom. The fuse is blown on my radio. My coax cable got a cut in it. Whatever. Well, what's your alternate? Do you have a backup 710? Do you have a backup antenna? If you got a backup, break it out. Don't waste time fixing your primary. Just break out your backup radio and put it on the air. A second scenario, you can't communicate on 440 with the adjacent mountains for some reason. Well, you should work this out in advance. You and the adjacent mountains have to agree on a contingency on the PACE plan, but maybe you say, If I can't get you on 440, I'm going to go to the 2-meter calling frequency, try calling you there. Or I'm going to call you on your cell phone if the adjacent mountain has cell phones. Or you're going to call your team captain and relay a message through your team captain. You can't get your team captain for whatever reason. Then the next plan is you're going to call Lynn or Jeff Hochberg and say, hey, I'm on my mountain. Here's what is going on. I'm getting packets, but I got no voice, whatever it is. But you need to plan this out in advance, have a written plan so you're not scratching your head on the day of the event. Gee, I wonder what Lynn's phone number is. Let's advance this. Okay, so say your primary and your alternate don't work. You brought two 710s, so they didn't work. This is pretty far down the list now. What else might you? Did you bring an HT? Did you bring a D72? It might work. Do you have more than one person on that mountain? Is there another operator coming that day? Did he bring equipment? If you're primary for the mountain, your stuff doesn't work. Whatever, you forgot something at home, water leaked in your trunk, whatever. Does the backup operator, did he bring stuff? Throw his gear on the air. Maybe you're in a bad location. I've seen this on Mount Washington, one end of the parking lot. I'm getting one station, but not the other. I drive halfway down the parking lot. Now I'm getting both adjacent stations. This is where this contingency planning, this is where you should be thinking ahead of time. What are all the things that can go wrong? How can I deal with those things? I know some of the mountains, maybe there's the summit, you want to go to the summit, but there's also a parking lot a half a mile away. So, or you go there and you're planning on using parking lot A and you find out they're doing construction that day or it's closed off. And you have an alternate location to go to. So, your primary antenna doesn't work. Think about all the contingencies. So this is your contingency plan, the stuff that is sort of remote, you don't expect to need it, but you're going to plan for it anyway. And in any case, no matter what you're doing, you have to let your team captain and ultimately Lynn veer the team captain or veer Jeff, because it's really important for Lynn to know what's going on. Are you moving to a new location? He can let the other people know. You keep everybody in the loop. Okay, let's move on. Okay, emergency. You're driving up the mountain. I don't know, you fall off the mountain, you get in a wreck, you hit somebody. Well, it's really an emergency. Dial 911, get the ambulance. But once again, communicate to your team captain. Let's say you're driving to the mountain, you're 2 hours away, you get in a wreck, call your team captain. Remember, the team captains also need pace plans. Lynn needs a pace plan. What if there's a hurricane that day? What's Lynn going to do? If Jeff needs a pace plan. But if your team captain has a good pace plan and you get in an ambulance wreck and you're going to the hospital, maybe he has some other operator he can call for a backup and say, hey, we have an emergency here. Could you go cover the mountain today? But don't just, leave everybody in the dark. The worst thing. Okay, so that's your emergency plan. And obviously, your safety, go to the hospital. It's more important than going to the mountain. Let's keep this in perspective. This is a fun event. This is not nuclear war. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Okay, if we look at why we had failures in the past, the primary gear failed or wrong, or somebody showed up and they had no backup. In other words, as Jeff mentioned, they had a couple of 710s, they grabbed the wrong one, they went up to the mountain, it had tin whiskers, didn't work. Well, had they brought both of them, they would have had a backup. The other big one, people don't arrive on time or not at all. It was no backup person. So everybody else is on their mountain. We're talking to Lynn, what's going on? Fred's, we don't know where Fred is. We haven't heard from Fred since last Thursday. He's supposed to be on Mountain X. We don't know if he's on the way. This is a big killer for the event. You got to have communications, not just with the adjacent mountains during the event, but with your team captain, or, Lynn has to know, are you on your way? Are you sick? Did something come up? Okay. So that point number 3, Lynn in the dark, not knowing what's going on, that's been a big source of failure and problems for us. So,
Yeah,
go ahead.
it always leaves me sitting down here wondering, is it the equipment's not working? Are they there? Why? And I'm trying to guess where the hole actually is in the chain. So having that positive information is excellent. Saves me wondering a lot.
Well, the other thing is, let's say Tim on Katahdin is saying, hey, there's bad weather coming in. I can stay for a maximum of another half hour, but I need to get down the mountain because there's going to be a thunderstorm. Well, if Lynn knows this station is due on site and they're 5 minutes away, we can say to Tim, hey, can you hold for 10 minutes and we'll try. If we have no idea if they're even coming, we're not going to jeopardize Tim on Katahdin with lightning, because we just don't know. So there's a lot of reasons you need to keep Lynn in the loop. Did I beat that enough, Lynn?
Yep, I think that horse is ready for the glue factory.
Good. And so your PACE plan is not just your APRS communications. It's not just your FM voice communication with adjacent mountains. PACE plan has to ensure that your team captain, or ultimately Lynn, knows your status before, during, and after the event. The Friday before, he needs to know you're ready. If he knows, if you have a problem and you know it on the Monday before, Lynn should know that the Monday before, not come Saturday. Oh, I can't go today because my radio broke, right? And even after the event. So can we go to the next slide, please? Okay, we want you to have a written PACE plan. Write it down. Who are you going to call? If you're going to call Ghostbusters, make sure you know how to call Ghostbusters, right? Write it all down. We want you to upload your PACE plan to the website so Lynn can have everybody's PACE plan to know what gear they have, everything about their plan, and keep your PACE plan current. We don't want you, oh yeah, I wrote it last month and I changed my radio and I didn't update the PACE plan. It's really important for Jeff and particularly Lynn to know everybody's PACE plan on the day. So we're asking, that's a new thing this year, do a written PACE plan and upload it to the website. Next slide, please. Before the event, have you updated the website with all the information they're looking for, your gear list, who's on your team? Have you uploaded your PACE plan, etc.? Make sure the website is kept up to date. You make a change, update the website, because that's going to be the source of information for Lynn on, and Jeff. They're going to be checking the week before. You've said, okay, on the website, you say you're good to go. Well, they're going to count on you. They're not going to be, they should not have to be calling you every 5 minutes. Is the info still good? It's your job to keep that website updated, and that's how they're going to get your information. Okay, in the morning when you're getting ready to leave, did you tell your team captain, I'm leaving home now? I'm en route. Does your team captain know? Are you going to be beaconing on APRS? Do you have cell phone coverage en route? How does he get in touch with you if he needs to tell you there's some change? The checking in is really important.
Jeff, the checklist, the information you're gathering from people, does it include the call sign SSID that they may be beaconing as on the way? That helps me to not guess which one might be them as they converge on the site.
Oh, yeah, I can do that.
Well, they should be in the PACE plan, Lynn.
Yeah, but sometimes they're not actually beaconing as their own call and
right.
And things like that.
Whatever they plan to be in there. In other words, like in my case, I could say, I anticipate beaconing, but coverage is sus that until I get to the New Hampshire line, you're probably not going to hear me. But from, Gorham south to Mount Washington, you should have good coverage. That all should be in the PACE plan. So just because I say I'm going to beacon doesn't mean you need to know what to expect and where it's going to work and where you have coverage and where you don't, right? There should be
I think I don't know. I think Lynn's making an interesting point because I actually had this problem last year. And again, I was kind of a newbie last year, and I'm still a newbie. But the guy that was coming up with me, like I was looking for his call sign to figure out where he was driving up. So this is not. This is on APRS. This is APRS. This is on the 144.39 APRS, not on the beaconing APRS of just tracking people as they're getting in place. Which is, I don't know if that's on the pace plan or not, but maybe it should be if it isn't. But understanding where people are at so you can actually see where they're tracking if they're beaconing, I think could be useful.
Oh, I use it a lot. I have 15 windows open sitting here, centered on each one of the peaks and watching for any APRS traffic that looks like it's converging on the site. So yeah.
And we do the shriek too.
Yeah, and I can nickname them to the shriek if I know exactly who they are, or if they want to program it in advance, that's awesome. But we're not going to go there right now. Back to you, John.
Okay. And it's really important. You're driving along. There's there's construction. There's a detour. You're going to be 5 minutes late. You're going to be 15 minutes late, whatever. Tell somebody, notify your team captain and get it passed up the line immediately. So once again, when it comes to 11 o'clock and you're not there and everybody's like, where's Fred, right? Be proactive in your communications. Let's go to the next slide. After the event, we want to make sure everybody gets home safely. This generally isn't a problem for us, but you could have a wreck on the way home. You could, whatever, you hike it. Like, I think Tim hikes up to the top of Katahdin. He could slip and break a leg, whatever. So we want you to, when you get back home, doesn't matter how you do it, email, phone, something, let your team captain know you're home safe. And then Lynn's going to be collecting that up. So come 6 o'clock at night, and Lynn says, hey, Fred was hiking up this mountain and we haven't heard from Fred. We're going to send somebody out to look for Fred, right? And, as I say, you said Dudley do right of the Mounties out, and he's looking all night for you. And you find, oh, well, Fred went home, turned his phone off and he's sleeping, Well, that's kind of inconsiderate of Fred. It wasted a lot of search and rescue money. So that's why we want to know your status. We want to make sure you're safe and, let somebody know. Because if we don't hear that you're safe, we don't hear you're made it back home, yeah, we're going to let somebody know and send somebody out to look for you. So, and don't forget to submit your notes, your photos, your status reports during the week following the event. This is really important. It helps for next year. Maybe somebody else is going up next year and your notes tell them, oh, this was a good place to park, or, be aware there's no water up here, or whatever. Just any notes help for future events. Okay, next slide. Okay, there's a great video by KM4ACAK, a ham is a YouTuber, and he goes through how to build a pace plan. And that one's designed for people across the country that want to communicate on HF. And he goes through and he says, pick the time of day you're going to communicate, look at the propagation position, propagation prediction. So maybe you say, we anticipate trying FT8 on 20 meters, but if that's not open, we're going to switch to 40 meters on CW or whatever. And you make a plan, you document it in a spreadsheet, it goes through the whole thing. Now, obviously, we're not on HF, we're not switching frequencies. Some of the backups that the military might use are different for us, but there's a great video that walks you through the importance of a pace plan and how to do it. So there's no need to watch it now. You can watch it at your leisure. And that's it. I want to keep it short and sweet on the pace plan. But I do want to ask Colonel Hamilton, since you use these pace plans a lot, could you take a couple of minutes and maybe amplify on the pace plan and talk about their importance and how the Army uses them?
Oh yeah, sure. No, this is this is it's a funny, like, weird circle of life in the Army for me, because I learned about HF in high school or whatever before I got in the Army, and then I got to the Army and we went through, yeah, most of you know that in the last 20 years has been like a decade of, or 2 decades of free RF, do whatever you want, and nobody's really jamming you. And in the Cold War times, we used HF, and so the concept of a pace plan has, basically what I'm trying to say is the concept of a pace plan has deteriorated very quickly, or over those past 2 decades of just being able to freely do RF and freely have satellite comms. So several years ago, we were talking about how do we do things like, talk beyond the line of sight in a austere environment. And I was just like, well, HF makes sense. And people are like, well, that's Cold War. That's not a thing that we do anymore. And no, it's still a thing we do. It's just people don't understand that. People understand the physics and what we're trying to do. We do have tropospheric scatter comms, but when I think of pace plan, it's all about completely different ways of communicating. And so the internet can be part of your pace plan. The HF can be part of your pace plan. You do have to realize that the speed at which you communicate and the amount of data you can communicate will potentially be limited in your pace plan. So in your pace plan also needs to include what's commander's intent. So if you're, go into battle and you're trying to figure out something, you're trying to move a unit, well, you don't need to have a VTC with the commander to be able to tell them to move their unit to a specific grid location. You can just send the grid location, and we do that now with ATAC, and you can Google ATAC, the Tactical Awareness Kit. It's actually pretty cool. ATAK, yeah, there you go. So we can use technology, but I'm always like a big advocate of how do we minimize the amount of bandwidth we use in general, and there's just lots of ways to do it, but we've been able to do ATAC over HF. I'm an advocate of digital HF, and I never was in my, earlier on, because I thought it didn't make sense. But it turns out that being able to communicate is more important than the amount of data you're processing, and I think that's the thing that's missed. So in any case, I don't know. I'm kind of ranting on this, what I think about trying to tell military people that what's important. But the pace plan is important because you have to understand what is it you need to communicate. And sometimes, it's really nice to have good comms, full on VTC, Teams call, whatever, Zoom call that we're doing right now. It's super awesome. And it's actually like really excellent that we can do this right now to get our stuff together, because we're about to go on the mountain and sit there with 9600 baud, which, people laugh at, but I don't know, this event kind of fires me up, because it's pretty badass what we're doing. Like this is really interesting that we're able to send packets, send data completely independent of the internet and pushing it across. So really this event in itself is an interesting pace plan, but when it comes to the way I think about comms, and I have, I don't know, I think about, you have to think everything is holistic, and when you can do that, you can figure out that there's what's nice to have. Like to me in this event, 9600 baud, nice to have. I mean, that's the perfect, like that's the P, that's the primary. We're going to try to do that. I have huge confidence that we're going to do it. It seems like we have like a great group of people, and we all need to communicate on this prior to the event. But also having, what is that alternate? What's the contingency? What are the things that we have to do to ensure success? And when I think about this event, like I think about all the stuff that I've seen failed in, on everything I've ever done. And, just like I think John said, I have some extra D72s. I normally wouldn't think to do that, but I'm like, yes, absolutely. Like bringing those extra things, having extra things are good. If I have to sit there with the handheld to make the link work, then that's going to be my alternate communication. Contingency becomes, to me, HF usually falls in like contingency when it comes to like, communications. And, you can apply this to anything you want to, any kind of comms you want to do. But HF to me is always like, I don't know. I'm not going to add HF to this exercise because this would be a whole nother disaster. Because I know some people are hiking up mountains and doing some kind of stuff. But to me, like HF is a great contingency emergency plan. And it could be an alternate plan depending on how you think about it. And I don't know. For me, I've been trying to just push the ball. And some of you probably seen my RCA video, or I did a video years ago, and I don't like it as much because I listen to how much I say when I speak, and it's disturbing. But I got a lot of traction with this tech talk I did for the RCA, and realistically, like there's just so much just people unaware of what it is that we do as amateur radio operators in general, and our ability to like overcome things. And so pace to me is it's ham radio in general. A lot of everybody here probably has it, but it's the ability to be able to step down and say, okay, this isn't going to work, I'm going to do this now. I think about that when I even do my packing list. Like, okay, well, if this doesn't work, like what's going to be, if I go to fail safe mode, like I'm booting up in safe mode on a computer kind of thing, like what is it that I have to make work? And last year I felt like it was awesome that I went to Camelback and was able to, it was beautiful up there and weather was good, but we had basically a good dual redundancy. And if the other guy, I can't think of his name right now,
It's
but
Matt, right?
Matt, yeah, I think it was Matt, yeah.
Yeah.
So when he showed up and he brought in like this perfect system, I was like, okay, well, you have your system, I have mine. I had mine running. I wasn't beaconing. I was able to turn it off, and I did all of the things. I'm going to tell this to everyone here. I feel like I'm a fairly good user of the D710, and it said delete everything and like restart from this configuration. And I did it hesitantly because I understand how to use it. I was like, I think I could program everything. There was a little advantage to doing that, is just there's just so many darn settings in there, and I wasn't sure if I was going to get all of them correct. And I may have done it pretty close, but not having to worry about it once you're up there, it's like going to the field. Like you go to the field, and all of the things like what's been kind of hinted on tonight in the presentation is everything's awesome when you're sitting at home in your luxury, like everything's fine. When you're on the mountain and rain starts to come in, all of these things start to happen, you get stressed and you lose a little bit of the focus. And having this plan set up, having like, this is what I need to do next, this is what's going to happen when my coax cable breaks, like all of those things are going to be incredibly helpful in a stressful situation. And we do the same thing in the Army. So I don't know. I might have rambled on this one a little bit.
No, I think it's great. I think, but I think to your point and John's points, right? I mean, the understanding that we need to have a pace plan, or we should have a pace plan, and just kind of like leaving it to people to go and write on their own. I feel like we almost need to have like a workshop where we can help take people through what is, because some folks have been part of the Golden Packet for a long time. Others are brand new to it, or still, maybe having only done it 1 or 2 years beforehand, don't understand or don't realize the sort of things that can go wrong. Like how do you do contingency planning if you don't know what could possibly fail on you, right? Or to your point, you're sitting at home and everything's great. That's because, if you have a piece of coax that goes bad, you just reach in the closet and grab another piece. But when you're out in the field, you don't have that luxury, right? So sometimes it requires kind of doing a little bit of role playing and going through the scenario to help flesh out a structure around it and make sure that what you're building is going to make sense to you and is going to be useful to you in the time of need.
Yeah, I would add to this. and I think about some of the times when I've been able to do field expedient things, I generally have time. The thing that's interesting with this event is time is of the essence. Like it seems like it's an afternoon or whatever, it's a couple hours. That time I've always felt with ham radio events, and this one in particular can be super stressful because it's just the time goes super quick. Like
Yep.
if you're like, oh, I'm gonna resolder this or that, even if you had all the equipment to do everything correctly, if you're at home, you could spend like an hour or two doing that, then going back on the air. Hour or two, like people are coming back off the mountain because there's lightning. Like that, it's a very, very. I think that's why Steve probably got me in with this event, because we were doing the Hudson Valley Relay, which is a 5-hour event. These events go by super, super fast. Like you just don't have time to react into. You can't like rebuild your radio in this time. Like there's no time to do that. You
Yeah,
got to
we
be able
always
to.
we always
Yeah.
end up having to leave early. So it's like the sooner that we can, because we planned from 11 to 3, but I can't remember if we've ever made it to 3 o'clock. We always have early afternoon, rain, lightning, thunder, right? So something comes up at least one of the sites. And when one site pulls down their antenna, that's it. We're done.
Yeah. No,
So
absolutely.
that's why, that's another reason why it's so important to be ready to go at 11 o'clock, because the weather element of it is like easily the one thing that causes us to end the event sooner than we want. And it's obviously the one thing we have absolutely no control over whatsoever. So it's like the closer to between 11, if we can get this done by 11, 12 o'clock or 11, I'm sorry, 12:30 or so, then we have time to play. And then okay, great. If we have a problem with weather, inclement weather, somebody needs to take their antenna down. Okay, well, no big deal. We're already done. Then you can kind of like relax a little bit and experiment. But yeah, it is
Yeah.
extremely, there's a lot of pressure. And, I think I've shared this story before, but Lynn will remember this. The first year that I went out and operated at 9600, I had never used APRS at 9600 before. And I was expecting to hear packets, right? Just like, you do at 1200, that just very familiar sound. And my radio was just not doing that. And I thought for sure something was wrong. And that's one of the reasons why I also say everybody should know how to program their D710s from the front panel, because I just had this crazy dependence on the Kenwood programming software or the RT system software and having a laptop with me and relying on all of that. And I had factory reset my radio, I don't know, 2, 3 times. I had sweat dripping off of me. I was so stressed out. And Lynn's like, what is it that makes you think that it's not working? And I said, well, I can't hear the packets. And he started laughing and he's like, you're not going to. He says, all you're going to hear is just like a little hiss and that's about it. And it's much quicker. And I'm like, holy shit. That was the whole basis for me determining that things weren't working. And then he says, oh, by the way, do you have another radio there with you that you could set up for 9600? Grab my D74, turn it on, program it real quick. Sure enough, packets, right? And so I don't know. I mean, it's just like the things that you run into out there, especially again, not having experience with doing some of the things the way that we do them. It is a lot different, and it's we do things because there's some really unique attributes to what we do. The length of the event or the length of the trail, the number of stations, the configuration that we use, a lot of things that we custom tailor that Bob had designed into this, that even if you use APRS every day, these just may not be super obvious to you.
Yeah, no, that's a good point about the sound. I've been around long enough, I guess now, where I had a Baypack modem when I was in high school, play with that thing, and I could. The sound is very peculiar sound for 1200, but 9600 definitely sounds like complete white noise to me. So no, that's funny that you say that, but
Well, and if you're outdoors, I mean, with all the ambient noise
yeah,
outdoors, you really
nothing.
can't hear anything.
You really can't. Yeah.
Yeah, you really can't hear anything.
I've been mostly frustrated when it comes to Yaesu radios. I've been trying to make those work, and they just do not decode as well as Kenwood. It's not even close. But
Hmm.
I don't know. That's just my experience.
Well, I wanted to just refresh people's memories too on that I think it was this was last year. So these slides were actually kind of the basis for like the background step by step, and then there's actual video that
Before we
goes.
move off the pace, Jeff,
Yeah, sure.
Colonel Hamilton, I was trying to think more along the lines. Okay, you're going to send a helicopter out. So you got the helicopter crew and they're all briefed on the radios and different frequencies and all that in your pace plan. But somewhere in that pace plan, there's got to be something. The helicopter just got shot down. You're laying on the ground. The radios are all out and you need to communicate, right? You got to have something like smoke in there in the emergency part, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, I'm going to tell you, I mean, I don't know if it's appropriate tonight, but my goodness, when I was in Iraq, like the ridiculousness of comms was insanely bad. No, you're correct. That's exactly what we should be thinking about. 100%. Yes. What do we do if we have to throw up the smoke signals, throw up those things? We Those things are incredibly important. I would say that we're complacent on multiple levels of just thinking we'll be able to communicate, and when you can't, it's incredibly frustrating if you don't have a good pace plan. But yeah.
So if I think of that, somebody hiking up a mountain, well, what happens? They lose their HT, it falls down in a valley or something. And they break a leg? Do they have like a personal EPIRB as a way to call in an emergency helper? What's the Jeff, you were telling me, what's the Garmin one that lets you send an emergency message?
Oh yeah, yeah, I
Yeah,
got this.
the Apple phone actually has it actually does have a satellite app. The iPhone, I think, has a satellite beacon for like,
Yeah, I think it's the
on.
14 or the 15 and above.
Yeah, so they've put that together. I'll tell you this, and this is why we have all the D72s. I think I might have said this last year or whenever when I was on, but West Point lost a cadet in probably I want to say 2014-ish time frame. I could be wrong. Probably somebody could Google it. Doing land nav, broke his leg, fell into the ravine, whatever that is. I don't know the whole details, but in any case, was on a land nav thing, and they couldn't get to him. It's happened at it's happened at multiple posts I've been at, because land nav is hard, and you get lost and you get distracted. You just, if you run out of water, you can die. So it happened at West Point, and West Point's a little bit more high profile than the Army. So if a private, I hate to say this, but if a private dies at Fort Hood, they're just going to do some things and try to figure it out. If a cadet dies at West Point, it's going to be slightly more high profile. And so basically they said, we have to figure out how to solve this problem. And I mean, one person could say better training could solve the problem. But the Army way of doing things is, well, we're just going to put a tracker on every cadet. So they put on satellite tracker for every single cadet. And it was about, I want to say it was about $600,000 to $700,000 for every cadet, like 1,000 cadets, to have this tracker on them so that they could do land nav and make sure that nobody died. Which is, really, yeah, 700,000 sounds bad, but I don't want a cadet to die, so it sounds good. So you weigh that. But I remember emailing Bob Berninga, because back when this was happening, I was like, we could probably do this with the APRS. And so I wrote to him and I said, hey, can we just buy a bunch of D72s and make this work? And he's like, that's going to be expensive. I'm like, well, I don't know. How much does D72 cost? Like 500 to 600 D72s, because that's about how many people would be on the thing. So we basically built our own tracking system, and the Army looked at it, was like, this is amazing. Like, we don't have to use satellites. It's crazy. Couple of different digipeaters, and they were able to cover the whole West Point area. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, we did it with APRS for about 2 or 3 years. And that's how I got the rest of them, because basically the Army said, oh, we could do this with cell phones. And so there's enough cell towers now here. We didn't have cell towers at the time. So basically we filled a gap that didn't exist. or that was a gap at the time. They built enough cell-phone towers, and then the Army created this other system, which I don't think is as good. I still think the APRS is actually better. But we built that system, and I mean, you could say we haven't lost a cadet. Nobody wants to talk about that, but we haven't lost a cadet with the APRS system that we had, and we haven't lost a cadet with the new system. So there's nothing to say that the new system is better. But good thing is for the Ham Radio Club at West Point is we got, there were 500 D72s bought for this purpose, and I have now, I'm signed for 50 of them. I just couldn't take them all because I don't know where to store them. And again, I would like to find out where they're going. They're still kind of in the Army process, maybe another year before they show up on like GovPlanet, but they're somewhere. Hopefully they won't get destroyed.
We need to talk with you about that with the foundation, because the foundation is official now. So
no, I've been trying to figure out where they're going. Every time I asked, they were still in the department, like they're still in Thayer Hall. So until they actually move out of there, then they're not really going anywhere. Okay. But in any case, it was a win. It was a win for what we were trying to do, and it worked extremely well.
That's awesome
for what we did.
It is, by the way. So, this is the device that John Tarbox was just mentioning. I actually just got one of these with the InReach built into it. But Stephen, you were talking about having a lot of ums in your video. I haven't tried this yet, but one of my colleagues swears by it. So it's like a video editing application called Descript, and I guess it uses AI, and it'll actually go through the video and remove all of the ums from your video automatically.
Unfortunately, it was a presentation to the RCA, so I can't unpack that one, but that would have been good.
It's good to know that it exists now, though. So
no, it was kind of a live presentation. I don't know. I was probably harder on myself because I listened to it. I don't like to hear myself talk. It's actually kind of annoying. So
it is hard. Yeah, it's extremely hard. I have a difficult time with it myself. So just to
it's HF, I think it's HF Renaissance in the United States Army. I think that's what is if anybody wants to.
And on YouTube
it's on YouTube. The Antique Wireless Association. If you say the HF Renaissance in the U.S. Army, I think you'll find it. It was on YouTube, but yeah.
There you go.
Yep, it's that second one, Antique Wireless Association. So that's probably it. So anyway, that's
the link in the chat.
Thoughts on that. It was I feel like I can write some great academic papers, but this presentation seemed to get more traction. And I actually got an invite to go to the Antique Wireless Association up in Rochester. And gosh, it was absolutely incredible. If anybody's up in Rochester, holy cow. They had I think during the JFK assassination, there was some art ready that went over HF. It was super cool. There was definitely some interesting stuff there, spark gap transmitters and everything else.
So just to make folks aware, I created this last year. I was actually kind of surprised. I thought the viewership would have been a little bit better, but I guess over a year, 35 isn't so bad for what this is. It's also not shared publicly. So, but for anybody that is going through and programming the radio, so this is like literally step by step, reset the radio and start from scratch. It also takes you through how to operate the 710 the day of the event. So it's not just how to program it. To Lynn's point earlier, there's the radio or the video covers programming two programmable memory slots, one specifically for the golden packet, and then one that I call OTR or on the road. So this is on your way to or from the event, where you beacon your own call sign and the ATGP shriek that Lynn likes, because that lets him follow where we are and he can track our status on the way there or on the way home. I would make sure that the link to this is shared with everybody. Again, even if it's just for a refresher, It's an hour long, but you can increase the speed if you don't like listening to me speak super slow. Um, YouTube is great like that, or you can just skip around however you want. And I can also just provide the slides so that you guys can go through these instead of going through the video. Either way is fine. But I also I do not cover using programming software. The whole point of this is wipe the radio clean, start from scratch, know how to program it from the front panel. In the event you ever have to, you'll thank me because this is, I think, the Kenwood D710, and frankly, after spending several days with the 72, the 74, and the 75, they all work the same way. I think they're the easiest radios out there to program from the front panel. I think that's pretty much it. Just realize that things are getting ready to kick into high gear because we're very close, and definitely be checking groups.io. If you do not have groups.io set to send you notifications, please go in and make sure that it is set to send you notifications, because when we send out messages, we want to get responses back from everyone as quickly as possible. Also, sign up for Discord. That is a great way. There's always at least one or two of us on, probably 20 hours out of the day. So there's always going to be a place for you to come to ask questions. We're all very friendly. We all want to help. We all want to see everybody be very successful. So there is no silly question. Ask whatever you want, even as fundamental, as basic as you think it might be. It doesn't matter. Would rather you ask now than wait until the day of the event. Nothing to be ashamed of asking here. This is the best place to learn about APRS, bar none. You will go through this event and be amazed as to how we come out the other end of it. It's absolutely incredible. And it's by far my favorite ham radio event of the year. So I put a lot of my time into this every year. I wouldn't do it if I didn't love it so much. Guys, any questions, concerns, comments, or anything? Because it is 9 o'clock. We've been on for an hour and a half, so I just want to be mindful of people's time.
Just real quick, Jeff, I just appreciate all your support with this. And I would say this full factor reset seemed like awful to me because I didn't want to do that to my radio, but it was so worth it because it worked perfectly. But again, thanks for putting all this together. This is like a ton of work. It's a huge team effort. Everybody has day jobs and stuff, but I just appreciate you herding the cats on this one. So absolutely.
Love doing it. All right, guys.
Hang on, Jeff. Looks like Ron is trying to show us something.
Yeah,
there.
Ron. Yeah. Oh, Ron needs to show his design here. I'm going to stop sharing. Why don't you?
Yeah. So, and then I can take the screen because I have the Word document up. So anyway, we were talking about having something to hand out. So I created a trifold. And I will share you the screen, but I just want to show you quickly here before I flip to sharing the Word document. But so the front Appalachian Trail Golden Packet talks a little bit about sending digital data the length of the Appalachian Trail, APRS. On the back side, basically from Georgia to Maine, it shows all the different points and all 17 stations and a little, basically like a, whatever you want to call it, legend. Anyway, open it up and let me see what it is. Talks about what the Appalachian Trail Golden Packet is. It talks about, let's see the other one, how we do it and using digipeters. Talks a little bit about that. Open it up. I've got talked about Bob who created it. And then on this side, it talks a little bit, it talks about, APRS Foundation, and then what I did, and we can do it for each side, or I can make these. I took the information from what Jeff has on the, and put information about where you're standing. So for me, the 501 shelter, and it talks about like the name of it. It has the altitude, or it has the elevation. It has the grid, not the grid. It has the lat and long, and I used both of them, the digital and the east-west. And then it also said the links, Gambrel State Park to the south, and then the Camelback to the north. And then a little thing about the APRS Foundation here. So, and right now, and if it's okay, let me share the screen here. Where do I do that? Here, screen. Here.
Down at the bottom, right in the
Yeah.
center. There you go.
Is that showing now?
Yes, perfect.
All right. So, and it's showing this little mark here because I have Word open here. But let's see if I can make it bigger. There we go.
Oh no, it's fine. It's
Oh, okay.
fine. Yeah.
All right. So these are just so you know, when I'm doing it, I can see this is the front, this is the back, and this will be the inside when you open it up. But it gives you a little information here. I tried to do it. I sent it to Jeff. He had a couple edits. You guys are more than welcome to look at it, but talk about what APRS is, what some of the things it can do, and more. A little diagram I got from, I don't know if I think that might have been from one of Lynn's briefs. So hopefully we have the rights to use this. And then on the, like I said, when you open it up on the left side, it talks about the Appalachian Trail, 15, 15 plus sites, 15 years we've been doing it. And I tried to look at this from the standpoint of somebody who doesn't know anything about ham radio, doesn't understand digital, doesn't understand. So I kind of explain things, packet, digital bursts of information. And what do? We set up these radios, and essentially, with the exception of turning them on and setting them up at the thing, this whole thing operates, 100% autonomously. It did, it takes any signal that comes in from any packet or any information coming in from another radio set up the same way and sends it back out, and essentially, being able to do the whole 2,200 miles. And then a little tribute to Bob in the middle. That's the best picture I could find with him. It was a picture, I think, with his son or somebody on the side, but I figured see if we could just kind of have a tribute to Bob. And then on the right-hand side, you can see what I did here, where you're standing. 501 shelter. Most of them will just be one line, but because of this weird location that I'm going to go in, which is the highest part in the area, but it tells a little bit about it. It tells you the Gambrel State Park's 94 miles to the south, or 95 miles south, and Camelback is 64 miles to the, up. It just gives you the links to the next station. And I can easily do this. I send it out or whatever. I can get them, and I can easily take the information off of the sign up sheet. I think that's where I pulled all the information. So if you guys want, I'll keep looking at it. I'll work with Jeff to I think we're close to finalizing it. One recommendation, I left the green in here for now. But if you don't want that, because if you're going to print them because probably print them, I can take it off so you don't see that, but you can fold them. I haven't bought the trifold paper that's a little thicker, but anyway. But like I said, I made it. If you guys like it, I'll continue with it, and then if you think it's worthwhile, I'll create this area for all 17 sites, and I'll turn it back over to you, Jeff.
Yeah, I think I think that John from White Rock Cliff, he wants it like sooner rather than later. So if you can, I think the only thing I see in this that needed to be corrected real quick, which I can just share with you after the call, is something at the bottom blurb about the foundation nonprofit status. But outside of that, I think this is amazing.
Well, that's probably 503, isn't it? There.
It's five. No, so it's 501c3 and 509a2, except you're using the copyright symbol. So the C there should be just
that
like
it did
that
to
do
me
an autocorrect?
Yeah. Because I think when I did that and the dot, so I'll get
it should have the parentheses just the same way as 509a2 does.
Yeah. So let's see if it doesn't do it this time.
If you put the parentheses behind that, immediately hit Control-Z.
Lynn is trying to say something, but he's got his.
I heard it was a garbled
Control-Z.
He came in packetized.
There you go. You got it.
You got it.
Okay.
And then and then the parentheses around the 3 as well. Just like it is for the A2.
Got it. All right.
There you go.
All right.
That
All right.
that
So
is
I will
so
set
great.
these and what I will do is I will create 2 versions for each site, one with the green, one without the green. So if you don't want to print the green, then that's your choice. I just used regular paper here, but it does kind of get you can easily see through it and stuff. So if somebody's out there in the light, they'll be able to see. But anyway, your choice. But I'll get them out and I'll send it out to. I'll work with Jeff to maybe put them on the site somewhere. In
Yeah, we
terms
can get
of,
them up on the website.
so we can have so you can go to your site as opposed to me sending out 17 different files, or
Yep.
actually 34 if I do some without white or without color.
We'll get them up there.
Anyway, so that's what I did. If you guys, what I'll do is I'll post this one. I'll send this one out tonight if you think it's worthwhile, so people can look at it and read it and see if they have any other checks. Otherwise, Jeff, if you're happy with it, then I'll just kind of slap it here for this for now.
Yeah, why don't we send a copy to groups.io just so everybody,
Yep.
and just say, like last round of edits, and that you'll work on the final versions.
Yep. Okay.
I
And
just
then-
want
Thank you
to say,
so
Ron,
much
I
for
think
doing
this
this.
is amazing, and thank you so
Very
much.
nice, very
Yeah.
nice.
So yeah, it took a look. It's a little bit of a learning curve, and I realized it said, oh, the best thing to use is Adobe, but I had gone too far down the path for Word this year to try and learn the Adobe, whatever the thing is. I already had it with the big group of Adobe products, but
It's a learning curve. For
it's
sure.
a learning curve. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah. All right.
Whatever you're comfortable with is the best
Yeah.
tool.
Yep. All right. And I think I stopped sharing. Yeah.
Yep.
Once again, thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Ron. That's
Very
amazing.
nice, very nice.
Any other questions, comments, anything before we close?
My audio sounds better.
Not really.
Fix that microphone, Lynn.
It's the
I
only
call
thing,
it-
if you need to, you can log out and log back in, but
We call it I call it his Kermit the Frog harmonizer.
Quick question,
Overloaded PC. Got it.
quick question.
Yes, go ahead.
Are I joined late because I had another meeting that conflicted with this. Are the slides for tonight available? And when do you think the recording will be available?
So the slides will definitely make available. I try and get the recording up by the end of the week.
Okay.
So yeah, I usually do a little bit of tweaking of it. And unfortunately, the software, it takes a little while to work through it. So it can take me a few days, but I will work on it as soon as I possibly can. And then I send a link out on groups.io with an announcement, and I'll include a link to the slides as well.
Well, thanks, Jeff. I'll review both, and then if I have questions, I'll get in touch with you or Lynn.
Wonderful.
all right. And just to answer Lynn's question, it will be a PDF when it's final, but right now I just have it in Word. And thanks for the information on the weight of the paper, 24. But I do know you can order actual trifold paper, which I believe has the little creases in them to help you fold, but it's not that hard to fold. I did this with paper pretty easy. Thanks.
Excellent. All right, folks, we're at 10 after 9. So great meeting. Thank you, Mr. Tarbucks, for an awesome presentation. Thanks for everybody for listening to me ramble on. And guys, it's officially time to get excited. We're less than 60 days, much less than 60 days, just a little over 30 days away from the event. So amazing stuff. Get ready to have a lot of fun. All right, guys. Take
Thank
care.
you.
Have a great night. Talk with you during the week and beyond.
Take care, all.
All right. Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye.
7-3.
Right.